Brother Time does not offer medical Were you trying to read this? Because it's my turn.
Does not offer medical.
No, stop. That wasn't an invitation to keep reading.
Oh, sorry. I heard you.
Brother Time does not offer medical, financial, or any other kind of professional advice or opinion. This is just us talking about things we want to talk about, so take it with a grain of salt. I decided to put emphasis in weird places. Did you feel it?
No.
Oh. Okay. Well,
I'll listen back once it's released, though.
Here, I'll just read it again. No, I'm just kidding. A true hero is not defined by their strength, but by their ability to inspire and lead others.
I don't like it.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh, well.
That was by Gandhi. You're really going to go against...
Now I feel bad. I didn't see who it was from.
I don't know a lot about Gandhi, but I know people say his name, and it's just like, you can't argue with it.
Now that I think about it, he's right.
That is kind of a weird take on a hero, because it basically says, heroes are only leaders.
Doesn't inspire. Yeah, no true hero doesn't inspire. You could rephrase it that way.
Yeah, which, there's like the anti-hero, but are they a hero? Anyway, I'm Josh, 8 of 10, and my favorite hero is, I want to say, Hercules from the Disney movie Hercules. Because that was one of my favorite movies growing up, and I really liked the Hercules character. Because, you saw his progression from being a puny, weak person up to being strong, which is basically what a hero is. They start puny and weak and useless.
There's a whole genre of that. I think it's called the isekai genre.
Yeah, I've heard of that, and it's really
very popular.
Yeah, it's about them starting just puny, worthless, weak, terrible, everyone hates them, up to being strong, and because they're strong, everybody likes them.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of tropes associated with it. So I like that genre too, though. I think there's a message there that you're getting at, though, like about how power people, like, even I've joked about it, but like, because Gandhi said it, the phrase has more meaning, right? Because he was a hero, his influence.
Right.
I'm Isaac, 5 of 10. My favorite hero, my favorite Disney hero, since that was specifically what you had asked for.
No, it's just favorite hero. I chose Disney because, you can't choose Disney because I did.
Oh, Disney's your favorite hero? Cool. They do inspire and lead others. No, I actually was thinking about this recently. I really like Merida from Brave.
Wow, that's a very progressive choice.
I'll be shooting from my own hand, and she's like really good at archery. Yeah, I rewatched that.
What if she was really bad at archery?
I know, right? That's a good point that I was even thinking about. Like, I'll be shooting from and then she misses, and like someone else. All right, you're getting married.
That would be a very different movie. It might even be a funny movie at that point.
Could it even be better if she started off bad at shooting? Like,
how hard would it be to make a movie about a hero that's just really bad at everything?
It just doesn't work. I've seen it tried, like in gaming and stuff like that. It has a little bit of humor to it at first, but it kind of gets old when someone just fails over and over again and there's no progression. Like, without the progression, there's no enjoyment. And I think that turns into like hope for people. Like, we can all get better at things.
Yeah.
We don't have to be the worst in the world forever. And maybe that's a good response to say to someone when they're like, I'm the worst, and they're looking for some sort of pity, or they're trying to
put your hand on their shoulder and say, then you're not a hero.
No, I was thinking you'd put your hand on their shoulder and say, but you can get better. Like,
but it's unlikely.
Okay, you're ruining.
Okay, this feels like time for a break.
I got it.
And we're back.
Uh,
Speaking of hiring at work, we weren't talking about that, but we are now.
that-
Isaac, you put in this topic.
yeah, we're hiring at work.
Oh, okay. Cool. Next topic.
This is just free ad space. I figured that I could throw that in there. No, I'm actually my next step, because I've tapped into my personal networks, and I've got some prospects there. We're hiring someone that I recommended, or at least giving them an offer. Yeah, I'm thinking about, and maybe I should just give you my ideas and you tell me if they're bad. I'm trying to find like minimum effort, max results for like just throwing out we're hiring information at people. And one of my thoughts was, well, the school year's coming to the doesn't have much longer. I could start recruiting at like high schools or something. Like they probably have a career fair.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
That's not a bad idea, depending on the kind of work.
It's construction. So, and it's a form of construction that doesn't really exist. We're doing stone masonry for structural stone homes. So we're expecting to have to train people.
Oh, okay. I see. So I guess, that's not a bad idea as long as there's a clear education component to the hiring. And it sounds like there is. You're training them in a skill that's new or different.
It's very old, actually, but it's
very old, but new
we're
today.
Bringing it back. Yeah, like some things just come back in style.
Because what would stink is if they saw you at their job fair, they signed up, they worked with you for 2 years, left the company, and they had nothing to show for it as far as getting hired in a similar position elsewhere. So that would be what I was wondering, is if I were going to go that route, how can I ensure, these hires are getting what they expect out of the job?
I think that's hugely important. I like the expectations set on both ends of the spectrum. Like my expectations get framed out for who I'm getting. Like, am I getting someone who has 20 years experience? No. I'm getting someone who's never swung a hammer, potentially. Like just properly setting up those expectations. And on their end, if they're like, well, the first day I'm going to be operating the crane and then I'm going to do some office work and then I'm going to drive the truck around. No, you're going to be moving stones your first day. You're going to be picking up by hand as heavy a rock as you can, or team lifting rocks. Like setting expectations is important.
Yeah.
And even like I want to go a step further than a lot of construction companies go and have like a skills to pay chart where it's like, as you gain skills, proficiency, not just like I've done it once, but you gain skills and proficiency in them by doing them and executing parts of the project, that correlates directly to pay raises. And that's,
I like that.
It's not an easy thing to do, and it's complicated. It's going to be like an upside down pyramid, I think, where you get some skills, you immediately get a pay bump. But it's going to take more for each tier, and it's going to require leadership skills in there once you get to the higher tiers as well. So
yeah, it almost sounds like, so using the moving stones, there are certain skills you should know and use when you're doing that, like how to lift properly, and if you're team lifting, how to team lift properly,
communicate.
So have it like almost like a log, like gamify it to where you have to do that task
exactly
properly for 100 days total, and once you've done that shows us you are proficient and skilled there, and you get this amount of money increase.
There's something along those lines. I don't know if it would require 100 straight days.
Right.
I would be more interested in the skill level at which they do it. And I guess it actually does make a lot of sense to have a time factor in there. Because if someone does something perfectly once, that doesn't mean they're proficient in it.
Yeah, that could have been a fluke.
it could have been a fluke, or they could know that specific situation really well. And every other situation that it's done in is completely different, and they would be lost or do it improperly.
Well, that system would make, like, okay, so there's the daily grind, right? And you can equate this to video games because you're kind of like you'd be gamifying the progression system of a worker, and it's like I really like that idea, and it also, so there's this thing about games that when you're grinding something out, when you're doing a repetitive task to get like a tiny reward to eventually get to a bigger reward, there's something enjoyable about that because it's like you're doing the task and you're chipping away at it, and you'll get there eventually. So I like that.
And from my side of things, we're trying to be generalists, or have guys who are generalists, and we may. So right now, at this point, we're trying to hire guys who want to learn a little bit of everything, if not a lot of everything. So being able to lead, like if we subcontract out, or eventually we have crews that are specifically for one type of thing, like this crew mostly does concrete. We still want people who can lead and manage those guys who have dabbled in concrete and know concrete enough to say, this should take this long. If it doesn't take this long, something's wrong, and I need to further investigate what's going on.
Yeah.
If you're clueless as a leader, you can't really lead. You can't. Someone will talk you out, like some guy will just talk you out of what you know too, and convince you that it actually takes 3 weeks to do this 1 week project.
Oh yeah, and so it can be manipulated if you don't have confidence.
I think confidence can come from experience and knowledge, but ignorance can be a vulnerable spot. Anyways, we're trying to get people who can do everything, and I like the term gamify, because that is basically providing like a clear path to progression in construction. It's often like, hey boss, I gained all these skills, could I get a raise? No, but it's not in the budget to give you a raise, get out of here. And then you go to another place and you're like, hey, I have all these skills, what could I make here? And they bump you up $10 from where you're at. And then you go back to your boss and like, hey, can you match this? I got this other job offer, otherwise I'm putting in 2 weeks. And they either take it or not. I mean, and sometimes they keep you, and sometimes they let you go. But there's this, there's this aspect of not paying people what they're worth until the very last moment that you have to. And it feels
until you have leverage, basically.
Yeah, like you can until you're walking out the door, and then it's like, oh, okay, hold on.
I think there could be better laws around giving employees more leverage in their jobs. I feel like, because at will sounds great, this idea that you could leave employment at any time is, I mean, that's required, right? But the idea that you could get let go for pretty much any reason, I mean, that obviously has some issues. And I know you have protected rights as an employee, like if you if a woman's pregnant and their employer lets her go because they don't want to pay for maternity leave, obviously she's going to sue that employer and get a pretty fat paycheck out of that dumb idea.
A fat paycheck? Is that?
No, sorry, I meant a pregnant paycheck. She'll get a.
There you go.
But I feel like I'm getting way off topic. But
no, you're fine.
But I feel like employees' rights in America are just virtually non-existent, because in that same situation, like say someone's pregnant and they're going to go on maternity leave, that's obviously going to cost the company money because they have to pay them while they're on maternity leave. And so if the company doesn't want to do that, they can find some other arbitrary reason to let them go. And then basically it has to be proven that they did it because they went on maternity leave.
Yeah.
Which I think most judges are going to judge in favor of the employee and say, well, obviously you did this just because blah, blah, blah. But what about other situations? Like, I know pregnancy is probably a topic where everyone's going to favor the side of the mother.
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
Because what if there were a woman who got hired, got pregnant, and then knew that was leverage for employment, or hid the fact that she was pregnant when she got hired, and then just became a bad employee? Like,
I'm sure that happens.
Maybe she was always a bad employee, but revealed that she was pregnant and then got locked into a system of, well, we can't fire her because it looks like this. And then that company basically has to shoulder that weight, or risk paying out a pregnant payout, a paycheck at the end of a litigation.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break. And we're back with an activity. This activity is called Misunderstood Science Facts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a word that is often misunderstood in a scientific context. So there's the use of this word in kind of just everyday language that we use maybe colloquially. And then there's the use of the word in the scientific context, and that meaning the way a researcher, someone who is deep in their knowledge of a particular topic, how they would use the word when describing that topic. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about like a theory?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that was the example I was going to give. Okay. And so I guess we can just start with that. So what is a theory? I'll ask you.
Oh, no. Man, I should have researched this a little better. I knew this. A theory is like the scientific... I think it's the general scientific community's way of approaching a topic that can't yet be proven solidly, or like there's not enough definitive proof to make it a law. Like there are things about it that aren't quite explained yet. Is that?
Yeah, that sounds right. So what does it mean when someone says, but that's just a theory?
Without context, like the theory of evolution, right? That's probably the one that people turn around and say, well, that's just a theory. And I don't know how people and things can, just to put that out there. I don't know how things kind of happened. And I think the scientific community's backing me on this, because though there's a lot of evidence, we weren't there.
Yeah.
Like that, all that evidence could spin around and point to a completely different story. Like, oh, actually time is traveling in reverse and this is us just decaying. And you know what I mean? Like there's no,
I mean, yeah, there's, you don't know what you don't know. Right.
Yeah. And that's sort of the thing that I actually like the most about science. Like it's fear of claiming perfect knowledge is actually refreshing to me. Like it's not, and it's willing to admit it, but someone who says it's just a theory, they're misusing. I feel like they're often misusing the word theory.
Yeah.
Like it has different meanings, and just the English word theory is like, oh yeah, I have this theory about Bitcoin is about to explode. And because of these, this evidence here and there. Anyways, that's my theory. That's a theory. It's not like the scientific community theory. That's
it's kind of like to kind of use a metaphor, maybe. It'd be like if you got a flat tire driving down the road, you pull over and you look at it and you say, well, I have a theory that I hit a nail, right? That's how most people see a theory. Yeah. They see it as one person saying, you know what, this makes sense. Or maybe even a group of people saying, you know what, this makes sense because it just looks that way. Whereas a scientific theory would be, the person thinks they hit a nail. Someone else has a recording of a nail on the ground and a tire going over it. and your license plate on that car. Another person who is a tire expert approaches you, looks at it, sees the nail, says, yeah, you hit a nail. That's why you have a flat tire. Like, that's what a scientific theory is. It's multiple fields, multiple experts, multiple points of view coming to the same conclusion independently. And that's the key, is it's independent. So like you have archaeology, you have biology using the theory of evolution. All of these things converge into the same conclusion independent of each other. And maybe they're looking over there and saying, you know what? That makes sense. And that might even guide their conclusion somewhat, but that doesn't change the evidence they found and the fact that it points toward that same that same conclusion. So let's look at another one. So what about the word natural?
Uh-oh. What are you asking about the word? What
So
does it mean?
How do you think people misuse the term natural in a scientific sense?
On food labels.
Yeah.
That's how they use it more than anything.
Oh, sure, yeah. People might. So there's this idea that if it's natural, it's better.
Yeah.
Right. So like an appeal to nature. Yeah.
Organic cyanide. That's.
So
it's
natural. As a matter of fact, with food, natural has so many different meanings, and it's mostly used to like say something is organic. But like, if you could market corn as natural, and I'm going to read this example here. So you could market corn as natural if you avoid adding or subtracting various things before selling it. But the corn itself is the result of thousands of years of selection by humans from a plant that wouldn't exist without human intervention. And you can kind of see the dichotomy there of what most people think of as natural versus what natural actually is. Because a lot of like using fruits, have you seen what bananas should look like? Have you ever seen that? You should look it up because it looks nothing like what we have today.
Really?
Because bananas are 100% the result of human interference in natural processes. And people would consider a banana to be natural. There's like that contradiction.
Are they really tiny? Is that?
Yeah. I was about to look it up, but yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly what they look like. So banana.
And we just like, I wonder, and this is probably a little weird and maybe gross to think about, but I think about cows and like how they themselves and like their shape, their like their ability to produce milk and volume, all those things I think about when I think about when you're talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Where
it's like, oh, humans have selectively, what would cows have looked like? Would they be more like horses? Like,
yeah, I don't know. They might
if
be.
You look at horse milk is completely different than cow's milk.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no, it's incredibly sweet. It's hard to catch the horses to figure this out, but if they're sleeping, their milk is incredibly sweet. No, you don't want to catch them. And in other countries,
they sleep standing up, don't they?
Yeah, which makes it a little easier. Anyways, I think it's Japan does horse milk stuff, and the only thing they really do with it is ferment it because it's so sweet. But I think we should be making horse milk cheese. Personally, like it's something that should happen. But what I'm getting at is it's natural. It's a more natural, original. What's the heirloom product? There we go. Pre modification.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird because we're selecting it to be better for us, right? We're naturally selecting it to be better for us. And how could that? I guess we're kind of naive.
Well,
we're like
you just used the word natural, whereas most people would think natural is without human intervention. Like it grew, maybe you planted a tree, but then that tree just grew and sprouted the apples, and that's what you get.
I don't know that Darwinism is like a good gauge for the best. that natural selection, I guess, is what people are kind of vying for. I don't really like that because it doesn't support humanity really. And like you can only forage in the forest for what naturally grew there. Well, then you're only taking away the things that you're reducing the population of the things that are good for humans to eat or available. Mm-hmm. So if you're not intentionally going in there and saying, well, I like this mushroom, let me spread the spores around. If you're not doing even that, you're just going to eat yourself out of existence really fast. You're like, oh, can't plant raspberries because they didn't naturally plant there. It doesn't make sense to me to like on an intuitive level. Now, GMOs I think are dangerous and I would say for me, that's the line between natural and unnatural. If something is like if you add jellyfish DNA to some corn, because it resists pests or can withstand whatever Roundup product you want to spray on the corn, it can survive it. That's getting into the realm of unnatural, but it's weird because it requires a scientific knowledge to even like start to dive into why that is, and to say, well, just natural is better. That there may be GMO stuff that is better for you. You can't just say like natural is the only the broad term that means better. It's weird.
Yeah, and I don't think natural means better myself, but I think a lot of people would come to that. And so let's go to another one. So quantum, like quantum uncertainty and quantum weirdness.
What? This is a weird. It says it's a quantum leap. From the last.
It is.
Last one.
Yeah.
So you're asking me to say how those are used? It just means big, right? Quantum.
So the quantum certainty and quantum weirdness refers to. Are you familiar with how a photon is both a particle and a wave, or it acts? It is both a particle and a wave until it's measured, and then it becomes one of the two things. But you don't know what it is beforehand.
Yeah, that stuff. I hear the words you're saying, but my processor in my brain died before it got to the
right. So people, I'll just say how I see or think people use this incorrectly. They often use it as a reason to say, well, anything could happen, or that there's some mystical component to the universe.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there is some mystical component, but that doesn't mean everything is mystical.
and the quantumness, like the quantum uncertainty and weirdness, are not evidence for that either. Is people will like I've seen as kind of a side thing I'll do when I'm bored is I'll look up videos of like spiritual gurus, quote unquote, that and I'll just kind of listen to them speak because I'm interested in what other people have to say. Now I don't buy into what they're selling because often they're just selling something and they're using a lot of buzzwords. And one thing I hear quite often is they'll say like, they'll tie in their spiritual statements into science and they'll just call it quantum. Like they'll just say like in quantum theory, blah, blah, blah. And this is evident because of quantum theory. And they'll just use that word to just mean things we don't understand, which it's true. We really don't understand a lot about quantum mechanics and it's being studied, right? But that doesn't mean that, it's being controlled by anything or anyone. Like you can't control quantum energy because that's not a thing and cause some kind of effect on someone else. That's at least how I've seen it misused quite a bit.
So do you think it's like a snake oil topic where it's like
like
people just use it because it's a mysterious unknown thing. People who are preying on the ignorant can throw it in there, and it causes like, oh, this guy knows more than me. Like, yeah, he's really tapping into the ether here, and he's already figured out all these mysteries.
Yeah.
This is the guy that I want to listen to.
Basically, con artists will go to that. And even someone who is a con artist, they can say inspirational things, and they can tell you things that will make your life better or make you have a better perspective on life. Like those two things aren't mutually exclusive. A con artist can tell you good things. They can tell you positive things.
Yeah, but I think what you're actually getting at here is you're calling them con artists, but really they're heroes. The true measure of a hero.
Yeah, they inspire.
The ability to inspire and get others to follow them.
Yeah. Okay, well, that activity went a little long, so I think we'll take one last break. And
like that,
we're back.
Do you like me tying that back to your phrase there?
Yeah, I mean, they are heroes, but they're also tricking people. So, but I guess that means you could trick people and still be a hero.
For their good,
For their good.
For their own good, I'm gonna trick you.
That's the weird thing. Is like, do you care more that someone is lying to you and telling you things that aren't true, or that they're making your life better, right? Because they could be doing both of those things at the same time.
That's a weird spot to be in.
I know. Like in a lot of those gurus kind of fall into that, where it's like they are improving lives. But what gets dangerous is when they say things like, my quantum energy can heal cancer.
Yeah.
Because then people don't seek actual treatment, and they die when they probably shouldn't have. That sort of thing happens. But aside from that, I mean, I see it as just fun. I think if you look at it as fun and kind of put it in a different thing, I mean, do whatever. If you recognize. Anyway, the podcast is ending right now. There's background music playing.
I didn't know that. I couldn't hear it, but I can now.
Okay, let me turn it up. Oh, you can hear it now? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The winner this week is Deepak Chopra is the winner this week.
What?
Deepak. Let me make sure I said his name. Chopra. Yeah, Deepak Chopra. He is an Indian American author, and he is the worst peddler of pseudoscience and the worst fake guru I've ever heard. He has been in debates with people who are actually knowledged in the fields that he pulls from, like quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
And he says things, he just uses buzzwords. As a matter of fact, there is a Deepak Chopra quote generator. Let me see. Here we go. Wisdomofchopra.com. So if you go to wisdomofchopra.com, you can just click a button and it will generate a new quote from Deepak Chopra, which is indistinguishable from his actual quotes. So this one that just came up, God experiences the light of photons. Let me do another one. Our consciousness fears deep molecules. These are the things he says, and they make no sense. But, anyway, so he's the winner this week, though, because he is a hero.
He sounds like a true hero.
Yeah, he is a true hero. He does inspire.
It's almost an underdog story, because it sounds like he's also a moron.
It is an underdog story.
We hope that I could be a hero.
Thank you, listeners, for listening this week. As I said, Deepak is the winner. I hope I said that right. And if you enjoyed the podcast, you can rate and review us on whatever podcast app you use. And as always, you can find us at brothertimepod.com.
brothertimepod.com.